Hello everyone, my name is Eddie Bolen. I'm the pastor at Edgewater United Methodist Church. I'm also the pastor at Midway United Methodist Church. I want to thank you so much for taking some time and for watching this video. I want to begin this video and I want to start today with a question. Could an act of kindness make you change your behavior? You know, something that would be, well, an act of kindness, something that is as simple as another person just saying thank you for something that you have done for them. Could that make you change your behavior? Or what about this? Is it within the realm of possibility that for you, that within your own possibility, in your own imagination, can you imagine sitting down with any other person in the world, with anyone that you know, or maybe even a complete stranger, but anyone in the world, is it within the realm of possibility where you would sit down and you were having dinner together? And based on the kindness of the other person that was sitting across from you, can you imagine that because of their kindness, nothing else, they hold nothing else over you, but just based on their kindness, can you imagine that after a single dinner, one dinner, giving away half of everything that you owed? Because they said, thank you. Or something else was about their kindness that would make you immediately liquidate your assets and give half of what you own away. There's a question that I want us to answer together. Does kindness have the power to lead to extraordinary generosity? Is there a connection? Is there a way that kindness has the power to lead to extraordinary generosity? And that's the question we're going to seek to answer together in this video. If you're at all interested, if you would like to take this question, and if you'd like to share it with other people, I do want to invite you to worship. We are at Edgewater and Midway United Methodist Church. We do have worship. We're meeting in person in the sanctuary at both churches. At Edgewater United Methodist Church, we meet at 9:20 a.m. At Midway United Methodist Church, we meet at 10:45 a.m. Like I said, both of those churches, we're meeting inside the sanctuary. Now, we still do require some safety and some protocols as we come together and as we meet together to make sure that we can do everything that we can to make sure that we are not doing harm to one another or doing harm to anyone in our community. So you will be asked, if you're thinking about coming and being part of either one of those worship services, you will be asked to just take a moment and check your own health. Make sure you do not have a fever. Make sure that you have not been sick recently. Also, be mindful that when you do come, that when you show up in person, that you'll be required to wear a face mask the entire time, a mask that covers your mouth as well as your nose. You'll be required to wear that in the parking lot, on the sidewalk, throughout the church building the entire time that you're around either one of the churches. Also, you'll be required to maintain at least 6 feet of social distance away from people that you do not live in the same household with. At least 6 feet. 10 feet's a better rule. That's a better rule of thumb, but at least 6 feet away from people you are not living in the same household with. You also notice that there's some extra cleaning, some extra sanitizing that is happening at each church. Also, be mindful of this, that we're doing everything we can to eliminate, you will not see common things like offering plates. We're trying to cut down as much on common touches as possible. But again, you are invited to come, and this is the very question that we'll be exploring as we come together. Does generosity, does kindness have the power to lead to extraordinary generosity? And the reason that we are asking this question together, and the reason that we are exploring kindness and generosity today, because both of these are virtues that are vital to the spiritual life. And that's not just what I think. I haven't just come and said that these are a couple of virtues that are really vital to the spiritual life. But if you go into the New Testament book of Galatians in chapter 5, it says that in the spiritual life, that there is spiritual fruit that emerges out of a spiritual life, that a life that is lived in the Spirit of God, that there is fruit that comes out of this. And there is, in fact, 9 aspects of, well, what we call in the church, we call it the fruit of the Spirit. And those 9 things are in Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 through 23, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so we're picking up 2 of those. kindness and generosity. And as we take a look together at the potential of kindness, and as we look together and see where is it that kindness is able, how can kindness, where can it lead us as an aspect of our spiritual life? Well, I want to invite you into an encounter that Jesus had. It was an encounter that Jesus had more than 2,000 years ago with a man who was named Zacchaeus. Now, the story is found in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Luke. It's Luke chapter 19, verse 1 through 10. You can take a look at it yourself if you'd like to. But if you don't have it immediately in front of you, here's a summary of that encounter. Jesus is passing through an area, a place called Jericho. And Zacchaeus is he is rich and he is a chief tax collector. That means chief tax collector. That means Zacchaeus is the one that's in charge. And Zacchaeus is a really short guy. Now, I'm not being mean. I'm not being cruel by saying that Zacchaeus is a short guy. This is what the Bible says. The Bible, in fact, says this. The Bible says that Zacchaeus was short in stature. So that's just not my own assessment. That's what the Bible says. So he's a really short guy. And Zacchaeus is wanting to see Jesus. And the crowd has gathered around Jesus. There are people that have heard that Jesus is passing through. Luke makes a point of saying this, that Jesus is just passing through this town and a crowd has begun to gather just to see him as he passes through. And so what Zacchaeus does, because he is a short guy, because there's a crowd that's gathered around Jesus, it's hard for him to look. It's hard for him to look over the shoulders of everyone that is on the street. So Zacchaeus climbs into a tree. He climbs into a tree to get a better look at this guy Jesus who is passing through town. Now I want you to slow down for a minute. I want you to slow down for a minute and just let that part, that summary part of the story, just to begin to slow down and begin to think about it just for a minute. And notice Zacchaeus, the kind of curiosity that he has. I mean, it has to be curiosity, right? Because Zacchaeus, he's rich. He has an important, responsible job. He's the chief tax collector. Not only is it his job, but there are other people, other tax collectors that are under him. Why on earth would he climb to the top of this tree? I mean, in fact, when's the last time you wanted to see someone so bad that you climbed up a tree? I mean, just think about that honestly. It has to be his own curiosity about this man Jesus who is passing through. But before this tree climbing and all that, what we find is that as Jesus is on the edge of Jericho, just before he comes into Jericho, this is the place where Zacchaeus climbs up in the tree to see Jesus, is in the city of Jericho. But just before then, there's another man that we find as Jesus is passing by, as Jesus is walking by. This other man is blind. And as Jesus is passing by, he asks Jesus for mercy. And what he does is he asks for mercy by shouting, not by climbing a tree. And seeking mercy from Jesus because he is blind and he is dependent on others. And in fact, this blind man is completely dependent on others to show him mercy. That's the only way that he can survive in this world. And so what he does is he shouts. He shouts for Jesus. But Zacchaeus, on the other hand, in all of his curiosity about wanting to see Jesus, so much that it would make him leave the ground and climb up to the top of this tree, sits in the tree and then says nothing. He sits in the top of this tree, says nothing as Jesus passes by, doesn't ask for mercy, doesn't ask, hey, Jesus, look up here and see me. And so what can you imagine? Jesus can offer a rich man who seems to have everything that he wants. Well, maybe there is. Maybe there's something about climbing to the top of trees, or I don't know, maybe there's something about being curious. Because Jesus notices him in the top of that tree. And perhaps you know, it's almost certain that Jesus is going to notice him. But Jesus not only notices Zacchaeus in the top of the tree, but this is what Jesus says. Zacchaeus, he says to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. That's Luke chapter 19. That's verse 5. It's Jesus' own words. Maybe there is something about curiosity, because you see where curiosity gets you? Well, what it got for Zacchaeus, maybe it could get the same for you if you were curious, is it gets Zacchaeus a self-invite by Jesus, a self-invitation to come into his house. Now, this is a place, particularly this encounter that Jesus and Zacchaeus have inside Zacchaeus' home. This is a place where it's going to be really important for us. It's going to be particularly vital for you to get onto this place right here, and where we can't stay in our own world. We can't stay, this is 2021, we can't stay in our own world, in our own century. We've got to go back. We've got to go back in history, and we've got to hear this encounter in the first century Mediterranean world, a world that is built, a world that was built where hospitality is vital to communal life. The way that communal life is able to function is based on hospitality. And Jesus' desire to go to this man's house has the potential. It has the potential of blowing up any moral credibility that Jesus has in the city of Jericho. And this is why, again, it's important to transport ourselves back. We've got to be historical scholars in a little bit at this point as we come around this story. That's why we've got to transport ourselves back to the first century. It's so important because those who are around them, they immediately begin to see what is happening, and they begin grumbling. They begin saying, and again, Luke chapter 19, verse 7, this is what the crowd says when Jesus says, Zacchaeus, come on down from the tree. I'm going to your house today. They begin to say about Jesus, well, he is going to be the guest of one who is a sinner. You see, in that world, in that first century Mediterranean world, it's okay. It's perfectly okay for Jesus and Zacchaeus to pass on the street. To even as Jesus is passing and looking up to Zacchaeus, it's perfectly okay for Jesus to give him that wave. Do you remember all these screens that we first got on when we started doing Zoom, when we started doing Google Meets, when we started doing all those business applications like that? We'd always wave when we got on, we'd always wave when we got off. So weird, but maybe we're getting past that now. But that would have been okay. It would be okay for Jesus and Zacchaeus to wave when they're passing on the street. Wave from the top of a tree even would have been okay. But to come into his home, for Jesus to come into the home of Zacchaeus, for Jesus to be the guest. Again, first century world, hospitality is vital to communal life. But for Jesus to be a guest of a sinner, and in fact a well-known sinner in Jericho, Jesus would be walking into a corrupt, a polluted, a morally destitute home. Words that were used in the first century world to describe someone that was a chief tax collector, and in fact, at times, to describe someone just because of their wealth. A corrupt, polluted, morally destitute home, the home of a sinner, and sinners are considered untouchable. You can pass them on the street and say hello. You can wave at them when they're in the top of a tree. But for someone who is like Jesus, who is considered, as he comes into the city of Jericho, considered to be moral, pure, and upright, well, it's unheard of. And it has the potential to blow up any kind of moral, pure uprightness that Jesus, any kind of persona that Jesus has of being a morally sound person at this point. And so what Jesus does is Jesus offers the only thing that has the potential to change this man up in the tree. Jesus offers the only thing that has the potential to change Zacchaeus' entire life. With Jesus' self-invitation to Zacchaeus' home, Jesus offers kindness. And I'm sure that you remember our question that we started with. Does kindness have the power to lead to extraordinary generosity? Well, Zacchaeus, in his own words, will say this. Look, half my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much. That's Luke chapter 19, verse 8. Now, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a financial advisor, or whether you pay accountants or pay financial advisors for their advice, or maybe you're just coming into this story and taking a look at Zacchaeus' own words and thinking, this seems ridiculous. I guess if you're an accountant or a financial advisor, there's probably a whole lot of other things that you see that's going on with Zacchaeus. But notice what he's doing. Not only is there immediate liquidation of half of everything he owns. That's what Zacchaeus says. He says, Lord, half of my possessions, I will immediately liquidate half of everything that I own, and I'll give it to the poor. But notice that part, repayments. I will give back 4 times as much. That's Zacchaeus' own words. It's not Luke, it's not Jesus. It's what Luke records for us. I will give back up to 4 times as much. The potential. Because of his own past acts, Zacchaeus has agreed in front of Jesus to debts that might be accrued in the future. And notice, this is not the end. Because Jesus' kindness leads to rather extraordinary generosity by Zacchaeus. Everything. The house. All of it. It just continues to go on, and it continues to go on, and it continues to go on. Look, Lord, half my possessions I will give to the poor. I will pay back 4 times as much, and has the potential to go a long way into the future, well after this dinner with Jesus and Zacchaeus is over. But then notice this. If you do take a moment to look at the story that Luke offers us about Jesus and Zacchaeus, you will notice this, that it takes a spiritual turn as Jesus announces for Zacchaeus and also anyone else that's willing to listen in Jericho. He says to Zacchaeus, he says, today salvation has come to this house, because Zacchaeus, he too, is a son of Abraham. Jesus amplifies the kindness and the curiosity and the generosity in Zacchaeus and says, today you too, today Zacchaeus, you too are living in the spiritual life. You too are a son of Abraham. Again, a century-old designation for a follower and worshiper of God, a son of Abraham. Well, Jesus says that today you are a son of Abraham. Salvation has come to you because you, Zacchaeus, you have shown the very fruit of the Spirit. Your generosity and kindness have shown your willingness to transform your life in fundamental ways and to begin to embrace the spiritual life. And this is the part of the story that if you hear anything about Luke chapter 19, especially verses 1 through 10, this is the part that is usually celebrated, the extraordinary transformation of Zacchaeus. His salvation that has come because of the kindness of Jesus coming into his house. But like an infomercial that has just told you that there is free shipping, but wait, you know the words, but wait, there's more, we'll double your order. There's even more to this story that happens right here, because you see in the rest of the story all along Jesus' motivation for being kind in the very first place. Jesus was motivated in his kindness that he extended towards Zacchaeus, because it wasn't Zacchaeus climbing to the top of the tree that got Jesus' attention. No, if you read the whole story, it was Jesus all along, looking for whoever was at the top of the tree. Zacchaeus was curious, and it led him to the top of the tree. But Jesus, we in fact learn, was looking for curious, lost people who, although they might have been chief tax collectors with important jobs, who although might have had all the wealth that they needed in this world, there was still something else that had caused their life to be off track, and they were still lost. You see, Jesus' motivation for looking for a person in the tree like Zacchaeus was this. It was motivated by, well, Jesus' own words says this: "For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." Luke chapter 19, verse 10. What about you? Yeah, that's where it comes to. What about you? As one who is like Zach, a follower of Jesus, that is in fact why you're watching this video, right? Because you are a follower of Jesus. Well, the good news for you is that even if you're not a follower of Jesus, if you're curious about Jesus, well, this is a perfect place to be, because as one who is like Zacchaeus, as one who is a follower of Jesus, as one who is curious about Jesus, I wonder where that curiosity will cause you to go and to seek the lost. Well, what about your own spiritual fruit? How will you use your spiritual fruit of kindness to bring, well, those curious, maybe even those lost at times, that down from the trees or wherever you find them at, how will you use your spiritual fruit of kindness to bring them back, to earth, back to reality, back to a life, hopefully to a transformation? And just imagine what generosity will the world benefit from, because that one who was lost, that one who was in the tree who only had curiosity, is now a follower of Jesus. And imagine how the world will benefit from their generosity. All because the one that you sought through your kindness is coming down from the tree, and as a follower of Jesus is sharing the fruit of generosity with our whole world. Well, to answer the question that we begin with, the answer is yes. Kindness has the power to lead to extraordinary generosity. Let's be willing to pursue it, and let's be willing to use it as our own spiritual fruit. I want to thank you so much for watching. I want to thank you so much for paying attention to this again. If you'd like to explore these questions with the community of faith, we'd love for you to come and to be a part of the conversations that we have at Edgewater and Midway, the kind of worship that we have. It is this kind of fruit that we all seek to have in our own lives, and is this person of Jesus Christ that has completely transformed our lives. We'd love to tell you more about how he can transform your life and how Jesus Christ has transformed our world. Well, thanks for watching. Hope that this is extremely helpful for you, and hope that it does, well, make you a little bit more curious. But please do. Let us use our fruit of kindness and generosity. It can change our world. Thanks again for watching. Amen.